This video is to review over the Cobot Liat molecular testing for flu and RSV. Generally speaking, this is the machine that we're going to be working with. It's a Cobot Liat. It is a molecular test. This is the digital screen here. The keypad is down below, and then up top is actually where the test cartridge gets inserted once it's inoculated with the viral medium. Like I said in the previous video, which was video 1, which I highly recommend you watch first. These are the supplies you will need for the testing. Here we have a pipette that is used to aspirate up the transport media with the specimen in it. This is your patient specimen, which I have uncapped for ease because I am only gifted with 2 hands, unfortunately. And this is the actual cassette, the reagent test cartridge cassette that you will actually inoculate to be able to test your sample. Now, obviously, I said in the previous video that molecular testing for viral analysis is done underneath the hood. This patient is negative. There's no patient sample involved in this transport media that I've inoculated, so I'm not at risk of getting any kind of contaminant of viral infection. So that's why I'm not underneath the hood. But you should be underneath the hood for testing viral methods, especially molecular, which had the possibility of us seeing respiratory aspirates and droplets get into our mucous membranes and cause disease. Now we're going to go ahead and press OK on this to get it into go mode, and then it usually has you log in. And we log in here utilizing these cards, which are provided by Liat. We scan the barcode in, and then it comes to our main screen. Now we have a few options here. We have options to look at running an assay, looking at previous results. Assay menu is to look at our possibilities for testing. This particular device does do flu, A and B, RSV, and strep testing, strep A, looking for Streptococcus pyogenes on a throat swab as well. But in this case, we're going to be doing, like I said, the nasopharyngeal testing for flu A and B. Now I'm going to go ahead and select Run Assay. You can see the digital screen has selected Run Assay. I'm going to press Select right here. Here it wants me to actually scan my Liat tube ID. This is my test cartridge, which, like I said, was over here. This actually came encased in this. Inside the foil of this particular cartridge is encased in these sleeves. And this is what it's asking for when it wants my Liat tube ID. So I'm going to go ahead and press Scan on here, and that's going to bring up the barcode reader, and it's going to scan in my reagent kit. That lets the machine know that I'm actually using a flu A and B Cobot test. It gives me the lot and expiration as well. Now at this point, it wants me to scan my sample ID. I pulled this label from my scrap heap. This is obviously a patient. You won't know who they are, but I'm going to go ahead and press Scan, and I'm going to allow the barcode reader to read my sample ID. And once that happens, it's telling me to go ahead and add my UTM sample and rescan the tube ID. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and load my viral sample into my test cartridge, and therefore I am going to rescan my tube ID, which is right here, and then I'm going to introduce my reagent kit, my cartridge, into my machine up here once that opens up. So I'm going to go ahead and do this first. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew the top of this lid because that's an important part. Obviously, I can't introduce the sample if the lid is actually screwed on the cartridge. So I'm going to set that right there. I'm going to go ahead and set that back down for a second here. Like I said, I do have only one hand, so I'm trying to do this the best way I can. If you lose visibility for a second, I'm sorry. But here I have my pipette. This is a sterile pipette, came vacuum sealed, and I'm going to go ahead and grab at my patient sample, which is in the bottom here. This has already been mixed and vortexed, received to us in the laboratory with the nasopharyngeal swab. You can see the liquids in there. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my sample to my test cartridge, which is in this top well here, is where we want to add it. You kind of want to swipe across there so you don't create any air bubbles. We know that air bubbles in testing can be a bad thing in any department. You can see there I have a pretty good application of my sample. You kind of want to just tap down on that a little bit to allow any stuff that remains at the top of the cupule to be brought down. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my cap then. I'm gonna recap my cartridge here, okay? Like I said, give me a minute while I work with only one or two hands. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get you out of view for a second. I'm just capping the sample, you're not missing anything at all. And then at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of gently flick my cartridge to allow any residual sample at the top of the coupler to go down. You can see that's a very clear, smooth application of the testing liquid. So at that point, I'm ready to go ahead and introduce my rescan my 2x-D, which is my test cartridge. It wants me to again to reaffirm that I'm running this particular methodology. So I'm going to go ahead and press scan here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let the barcode read that, and you can see that noise there's where that opened up. Now I have up to 20 seconds to introduce my cartridge here. So I'm going to go ahead and slide my cartridge in here as such and push down. Once that happens, this particular test will start running. So you can see down here, I have a time frame that has initialized. I'm looking at a 20-minute and 25-second time frame, TAT, on my result. So what's happening at this point is that the sample is being heated up to the point where the protein inside this particular liquid is being denatured. And at that point, we're looking at nuclear hybridization to occur to allow us to test for the presence of the nuclear material of the flu A and B virus. So this is going to take quite a while, so I'm not going to keep this video running the whole time. I will produce a third video which shows you how to access the result once this testing is done, and you'll see how we would read the result on the digital display and be able to report that out then. But for now, this is the general method of testing with a LIAT made by Cobas, molecular method, looking at the ability to detect viral presence at a very, sophisticated level.